G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza, and today we're going to have some fun with some coloured pencils. This is a brand new packet of Prismacolor Premier pencils, hashtag not sponsored. And I'm going to be colouring in this image of this queenly character saying hello to a little Tweety bird, which is from my new colouring ebook. So if you guys weren't aware, I recently released a digital colouring in book which is available on the JAZZA'Studios.com shop, which has over 35 more images available in extreme high resolution, which you can use to practice your digital painting, or as you can see, as I've done here, print on your at-home printer and play around with your traditional materials. So my goal for this image and this video is to colour in this image as smooth and rich as I can with these coloured pencils, and I want to talk through, as I do so, describing some of the tips and tricks that I use and think of when working with coloured pencils, and hopefully if this is the sort of thing you'd like to play around with, there's a few little nuggets of goodness in there for you. Nuggets of goodness isn't the most appealing descriptor, but it's the one I've gone with, so deal with it. When opening up the box of pencils, I noticed they were sharpened at a pretty shallow angle by default. It's important to have a nice sharp pencil when you're colouring in, and resharpening these pencils to have a longer tip will make them more accurate to colour with and give them a sharper tip for longer. Also, it'll give me more pencil surface area to work with so I can angle it as I wish. After preparing my pencils, I move on to preparing my colour palette. I find it really helpful to scribble down a bunch of colours next to each other so I can decide which combinations to use and see how those combinations blend together. With my core colours selected, it's time to move on to my piece, and the way I approach colouring with coloured pencils is to work with a layered mentality. To create a really rich and smooth colour effect, I recommend creating a base of a flat colour to work from. Doing so by working with shallow strokes, regularly changing direction and going over the same area several times to create a look that is as flat as possible. Next, I move on to a slightly darker colour and work on broader gradients of shadow to create depth. When this is done, I go back over the same area and focus on details, folds of the clothing, indentations, and so on. After that, I like to sometimes move on to a highlight colour, and in this case I used a light pink, which I gently work into the highlight areas and fade out towards the shadows. I like to go with a colour that's slightly different in hue to the colour that I'm working on top of. This really helps make the area pop. For example, if you're colouring a blue object or outfit, it might be nice to give it a very subtle green or yellow highlight. My last step is to add the final punch of shadow with a black pencil in the deepest areas and darkest crevices. Same thing to the lower part of the dress here. Working from our base colour, we add some broad and detailed basic shading, gently push in highlights of a different hue, and then put in those final shadows to add a lot of solidity. I've learned over time to really embrace contrast and shadow, even if it hides some detail on occasion, since the result is so much more visually engaging. I used to colour with pencils and gradient my colours to the white of the paper to create highlights, but in reality that lacks impact. Even here, when you can see the shadows gradient to the base colour, the highlight still feels a little empty and over-textured. But by putting in a strong layer of very light pink, the drapery all of a sudden looks so much more velvety and clean. Not everything has to have really deep or dark shading. Take these gold and white areas for instance, and I just worked with two colours for the gold, a yellow and rusty brown, and with a white cloth I do gradient towards the white of the paper because it's a white outfit, but I do use light blue and dark blue as the shadow tones, and I try not to shy away from using a little bit of depth here. I also go in and blend with the white pencil. This might not seem to make much sense, but by gradiating from one colour to the white of the paper, the textures of the pencil marks on the paper are quite visible. Now, although the white pencil isn't particularly useful on white paper in general, or even on top of other colours on white paper, by using it to really aggressively blend in those lighter pencil markings that blend to the white of the paper, it softens that pencil texture aesthetic that I feel sort of cheapens the look of some of those gradients. And moving on to the skin of this lady, this pack conveniently has a nice light skin color base, so if you're short on pencils you can create the same look by gently laying down a very light layer of yellow and then a very gentle layer of red, and then same goes with brown. The combination of these three very lightly put down colors creates a very light skin tone, and the darker you put them down, the darker that skin tone becomes. I add a layer of brown shading to the skin to add depth, and then work in some light red very gently put down throughout the whole skin tone to make it look a bit more fleshy. Last but not least, I go over all of the skin areas again very firmly with that first light skin color, and I aggressively blend it all. Then I put in some dark contrast using the black pencil. Now let me just go back here and show you the difference these last steps make. Without the solidity of the blending or the contrast of the black, the skin looks a little empty and textured. With them, it looks smooth and has a lot more shape. Last but not least, I go through the rest of the piece, colouring in the final details, keeping those same things in mind. Layering the colours, blending in the highlights, and being bold with the contrast. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the finished result of my coloured pencil endeavour today. I'm really happy with the result, and I love that the finished result looks really rich in colour, and nothing, even the white areas, look too sparse or empty, which is something that can be difficult to achieve with pencils if you sort of gradiate to white or if you're not confident mixing colours. So I'm really hoping that some of the tips I've touched on today have been helpful to you, and that the result is something you've enjoyed, and that this video is something you've enjoyed. If it is, make sure to hit that like button, and of course subscribe to Draw with Jazza, where we have fun with art 3 times a week. And if you like this image and want to have a go yourself with this or any of the other images from my colouring ebook, go check out the link in the description. It costs as much as a cup of coffee, it helps this channel out, and there's a lot of fun there for you to have with your colouring in digitally or traditionally. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later. Make sure to subscribe to my channel to see more of my videos, and while you're at it, check out my shop where I sell ebooks, brushes, photo references, video courses, and more. There's another video you might enjoy from my channel over there, and you can also check out my behind the scenes daily vlog channel, Daily Jazza. That's it for now, and until next time, I'll see you later.